There's two divisions. There's one where it's competitive freediving to see how far you can go down. And then there's freediving to use specifically for spearfishing. not
Okay,
specifically for
folks, it's
spearfishing.
2 o'clock.
Yeah.
Right.
They're not that deep.
Right.
Well,
So let's
deep,
kick
but-
this thing off. It's, and here comes Clay's coming with us. Hey, Clay. So it's 2 o'clock, and now is the beginning of the Environmental Advisory Committee meeting for August the 9th at 2 o'clock p.m. And the first order of business is to call the roll. Mary Ann, would you do that for us, please?
Sure. Chair Bradford,
Here?
Vice Chair Namath, Committee Member Freese,
Here.
Committee Member Damon,
Here.
Committee Member Redmond,
Here.
Committee Member Wenta,
Here.
Committee Member Shearhouse.
Here.
Okay, so we have a quorum. The next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Russ just mentioned to me that he wanted to give an update about the shoreline issue, so we can let him go first under new business, where it says comments of committee members. I have an item relative to the BLM National Public Lands Day. And does anybody else have anything they want to bring up that they can, you're free to, if something comes to mind during the meeting, you're free to bring it up. But if you know of anything you want to talk about now, you can tell me and we'll make sure you get to be heard.
Yeah, I mean, I can give the slight update on, I visited most of our public parks that we have here and observed the recycling trash situation, so I can give an update on that.
Okay, excellent. So we'll do that. Anybody else? Anything comes to mind, just, we'll do it under that subject, and we'll go through the order of Russ, Clay, and Tom. So the next item, so then I need a motion to approve the agenda. We don't have to actually, we have to approve the agenda as submitted. Is there a motion to that effect?
My motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carries. The next item is communications from citizens, and we have only one citizen in the room at the moment, and he's deep in thought, so we'll move on.
Technically, I'm not a citizen, so
I know, yeah, well, you're
you
a,
have one citizen, for sure.
yeah, that's true. Okay. So the next is presentations. We have none today. And then under the consent agenda are the minutes for this committee for July 12th, 23 meeting. And Ms. Namath just walked in at 2:03, put her down as present. So I have a change to the minutes, but does anybody else have anything that they want to talk about in regard to the minutes? Mary Ann, the only thing that I noticed was at the last meeting, and I checked with Brad to make sure I wasn't, wrong. So he volunteered to be our monitor for the, what's that subject? I can't remember. Perchlorates.
Okay.
And so,
That's right.
if you could just make a note of that in the minutes.
Sure.
So, can we get a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, we really only have one item today, other than the things that are going to come up under comments. And that is the next steps in this EAC new initiatives. I'm waiting for the memo to come up. And so, at the beginning of the memo I gave you for the backup, when we went into that July meeting, we had a total of 6 items that were new initiatives. So you can see in the memo, I struck the word from leaf blowers, and because we tabled that until it may become an issue in the village. And just FYI, I noticed, I monitor and go to a lot of other meetings in the county, and there's at least 2 or 3 cities that are currently working on changes. Juno Beach, for example, is in the process of only allowing electric leaf blowers because they are less noisy than gas or oil powered. So we'll keep that as, you know, in case something comes up, we can go back to it. And then the other was medical waste, which I think, this is my conclusion, it's such a big issue, there's not much we can do except to make sure that Coral Cove Park has, you know, there are regular beach cleaning events there. And then the Beach Bucket Foundation has those buckets there for people that want to pick up stuff while they're at the beach. And that's about all we can do at this time. So then, in regard to the other 4 items, shoreline protection, Russ volunteered to keep his eye on that, and he's going to give us an update. And then, in regard to percolates, I hope I said that right, Brad has volunteered to keep his eye on that and tell us, bring to our attention anything that comes up. And then Clay volunteered to do the recycling at Tequesta facilities. So, we're really down to greenhouse gas reduction actions. And, excuse me, in addition to that, however, which is related, Jeremy Allen requested that we look at a green building code type of things, and which is typically LEED or incentives to do green building, and also the subject of green infrastructure. And the village does engage in green infrastructure. Basically, anytime you see a drainage retention pond that captures drainage runoff and keeps it, except in a horrible event, keeps it percolating back into the aquifer. That's an example. That's actually mandated by the South Florida Water Management District. Tequesta does that, and then Jeremy and Matt Hammond and now Marjorie Craig, they're doing bioswales on a fairly regular basis, which is also green infrastructure. So we just need to keep those items in the back of our mind, and we will probably drill down to that during the greenhouse gas discussion. So the question is, who's going to do what? And so, you know, I got a table here at the end of the memo. I also gave you the Excel spreadsheet that I had to put there to make sure I saw everything in one place. But I think the table may be more helpful. That's at the end of the memo. And so what I've done, if you look at that table, I've got the top of the table, I've got the ICLEI items that they measured in their greenhouse gas assessment for us. Then what they recommended for the community-wide inventory reductions, and what they recommended for the local government inventory reductions. And then we have the last 2 columns are assignments. So we'll go down the list. We don't have to say yay or nay at the moment, and we may get a lot of nays for all we know, but let's go down the list. So starting with the first item measured is the way is a description of what they did. Then the first one was stationary energy use, meaning buildings typically. And now going on that row from left to right, under the community inventory reduction, they said use of renewable energy and adoption of additional energy efficiencies would be one way to tackle greenhouse gas reductions in buildings. And in the local government one, which means this Tequesta government and its facilities, it was also increase energy efficiency where possible. We know they've done some. 2 is increased use of renewable energy. And then 3, I put LEED related, if any. because I know that Jill was working on that at one point and may still be monitoring that. So when we get over to, so the recommendations for both categories, community and local government, are basically the same. So I put there, when it comes to assignment for community-wide, I volunteered Jill for lead, and you can say ixnay to that if you want to. We'll get to that in
Yeah,
a
sure.
second. And then we need the two other potential tasks is the introduction of and/or communicating to the public and to the government about what is it? Renewable energy sources, and they're basically the same for both community and local government. So we'll stop there, and I'll move down now to the next one on the list is mobile fuel use, gas and diesel typically. And then under their recommendation under the community was promote EVs, electric vehicles, and then reducing per capita VMT, that's vehicle, it's vehicle miles traveled. So you want people to reduce their use of vehicles, particularly gasoline and diesel-powered vehicles, and wherever possible to walk or ride a bicycle. You can ride an electric bicycle if you want to. But that's related, I just want to make sure everybody knows, that's related to our issue that we've had for years here, to urge the village to plant more trees as part of streetscape programs. Because if you drive, drive Seabrook Road one time for kicks, and you'll see that, and Country Club Drive, you'll see how that shade makes it more comfortable to walk and ride a bicycle. And so it's killing two birds with one stone. We're making it more comfortable to use alternative ways to get about, and we're also, through the trees, reducing greenhouse gases, the carbon in the atmosphere. So in these two cases, they're basically the same. The recommendations: reduce fleet emissions. We've talked about before that, the village doesn't have to necessarily jump in head first and just start buying electric vehicles and installing charging stations on their property immediately, but they could begin to segue to using vehicles, particularly trucks, that are hybrids, where they'll get, I saw a thing the other day where Toyota's new Prius will get 40 miles of electrical use before the gas engine turns on. So the typical, by the way, and then I saw in a video where they actually got over 50 miles of electric use in their hybrid. The typical commute, by the way, believe it or not, is about 15 miles each way to work. And so a hybrid would actually mean you could go to work and come back and not ever use a drop of gas. But anyway, I digress, I'm sorry. So, so we have two potential tasks there. Someone being, looking into and recommending and communicating through village communication platforms such as smoke signals and their Friday news alerts that they send out and so forth, about how to go about reducing these emissions and alternative means of reducing vehicle miles traveled. It's very possible, particularly with the older population that we have, that a lot of people don't understand the importance of reducing greenhouse gases and how electric vehicles and other things would make that be not as bad as it is today. So in the communications thinking, a little bit of educational activity should probably take place as well. The next item in the far left column is solid waste. Now, it's true that ICLEI indicated that in our total inventories that this is actually less than 1%. But one way to reduce that is to increase recycling. If we increase the use of recycling, and Laura just came in here, if I don't know if you noticed, she asked me if I'd heard back from AARP. I came across an article in an AARP magazine that was like 3 pages long telling you where you can legally dispose of things. You know, some can go in your blue bin and your yellow bin, but then there's the solid waste drop-off facilities, and then there is almost an unlimited sources to take things like your computers and your cell phones, and they will remove the mineral, you know, the important minerals and so forth in there, and recycle virtually the whole thing. So that's kind of, so she wants, so I wrote to AARP to ask them if we could use that copyrighted material, and they haven't responded yet. But that's an example of letting the world know there's more than your yellow and blue bin that you keep at your house. Bear with me, the thing went off. So anyway, that's just one thing to consider, that solid waste could be made even less of an issue. It's already a minuscule issue for us because we don't even own the vehicles that pick up the solid waste in the village of Tequesta.
Tom?
Yes.
Do you, to your point, actually, I remember when my dad used to take his batteries to the local battery shop here in Tequesta because they would dispose of batteries for
Yes,
people.
right.
So like that, local businesses that may be happy to help with certain things.
That's right, that's an example, exactly.
Yeah, having a list like that. I don't know if there is one, but yes.
So anyway, the last one is wastewater and water treatment. Okay, so this is one thing that I will volunteer to do, is meet with the LRECD, is Loxahatchee River Environmental Control District. They're the sewer utility, sanitary sewer utility. And I will volunteer to do that one, where I'll meet with their executive director and I will ask him things like, okay, what have you done in the last 5 years that increased your energy efficiency? That might be a question I pose to him. Then I say, what things do you have on the books, for example, in your 5-year capital improvement program, that will also reduce energy and cost? And what's the other thing? And then ask him if they have anything planned for the use of renewable energy. They've got a lot of property, and maybe they could do some wind and or solar power alternatives. So I'll jump in and volunteer to take care of that one, okay? So then we have to go to the top, and then we know, I left out water. We know that Marjorie is cognizant of the need to effect energy savings wherever feasible. Now, whether she has time to, I think they do it though, where they look at, you know, grants.gov or whatever it's called, where you can just bury yourself in grant options out there. I think they do that from time to time. And, but maybe whoever works on that would look at the websites to see what's out there. I know, just for example, in the last month since we met, that I saw an email, it was either email or a post, where Florida is about to receive their money, or maybe they already have received their money from the, what did they call that? The Inflation Reduction Act that the federal government passed. Billions of dollars in Florida for grants that they will be issuing or making available to cities and counties for energy efficiency things like purchasing electric charging stations, purchasing hopefully electric vehicles and so forth. So that's about to start big time, and I think we want to somehow encourage the village to get in on that. I think I sent Jeremy an email, something to that effect, recently when I saw it. So I'll stop now, and except to point out that, let me pause there and say, do any of you want to volunteer to look into anything that you see here, like I just volunteered to do the wastewater part? Does anybody want to step up
I
that
have
you
a
see something of interest?
I have a couple of questions.
Yes, Michelle, go ahead.
Maybe directed towards Jeremy.
She's got a
I
question.
have a question for you. So the village is also looking towards the zero emissions, trying to get involved with it, with the scale that we have of Village of Tequesta, is that right? To the 2030 zero emission,
Yeah, I mean, we'd like to, I think we're part of a program with the Florida League of Cities, and, you know, we've started down that path, yeah.
so in your opinion, our scale that we are in Tequesta,
Michelle,
which of these?
would you speak closer to
Oh.
the mic?
Which of these, in your opinion, has validity to be able to apply to Tequesta in order of need?
So that's a little bit of a
And
loaded
impact?
question, but, I think a lot of the stuff we're doing with the water plant, I mean, as you guys have probably seen that, you know, the water plant's probably the village is probably #1 energy user, so we're doing some efficiencies there. You know, I thought the easy one, low-hanging fruit out of all this would have been some of the EV stuff, but, you know, we can't get EV vehicles, I mean, from a municipal standpoint until some of that unwinds a little bit, you know, because we get the, you know, the governmental rate, and they're not selling those vehicles to government agencies right now, and so we have trouble getting some of that, obviously the infrastructure that goes with it, so.
And hybrid, does that hybrid fall into that as well?
Yeah, we had a hybrid vehicle that we had on purchase for over a year and a half, and we got a letter that says that we're off the list now because they don't have the vehicle available, so we had to go out and just buy a regular vehicle. So it's not, when you see one on a yard or on a, you know, in a dealership, doesn't necessarily mean that we can go out and purchase that vehicle because of the government rate, the tax implications and all that,
Okay,
so
so that's a limitation.
So, but I
or
think,
constraint.
I mean, I think, you know, once that unwinds, it seems like that would be an easy one to even set a goal that says, you know, half of our fleet by the year 2030 or 2035 will be, you know, EV. I mean, it seems like that's an easy one, or at least I thought it would be, to set a goal and just work toward it. You know, you're always gonna have some delays with public safety, you know, and their vehicles turning over, but I think a lot of our, you know, utility vehicles, public works vehicles, code, building, seems like they're pretty easy to get there, you know, over time, you know, as we replace vehicles to, you know, right now we're on like a 10-year replacement for some of those vehicles, you know, so every, you know, year or every 2 years, we're probably replacing one of those vehicles, so.
So
I don't know if that
any of
really
those-
answered the question or not, but.
Yeah, so so just to further, so vehicles used by Village of Tequesta are purchased through through government channel?
Government
It's-
contract,
It's
right.
not okay. So that's a constraint to work with.
In
Right
that
now it
regard-
is. I mean, I think
in
some of
that
it-
regard, Jeremy, would it be helpful, for example, if we wrote a letter to, do you buy it through that sheriff's program too?
Yep.
Yeah. If we wrote them and said, hey, you know, by 2030, what is the deal about? Oh, by 2030, they estimate that I think 50% of all new vehicle sales in America will be EVs by 2030. So would it help if we wrote those organizations and said, hey, can you start to have some options for the local governments to buy such vehicles?
Yeah, I don't know that it would necessarily hurt.
Yeah.
Couldn't imagine it being
Okay,
Okay,
I'm sorry.
thank you.
Keep going, Michelle.
No,
I'm sorry.
I just want a little input, so to know that is important. And then lead. That's a big category. lead
Yeah.
is. So are we looking at it from the village's perspective of writing, I don't know what the terminology is, but the requirements or code or regulations for new development? Is that what we're looking at?
So I think the task originally, as we talked about it at a council level very, I say quickly, is, some of those things are very costly to developers when you start requiring them to do some of those green buildings or higher standards, are there incentives out there, in doing some research for other cities that are incentivizing it versus requiring it and trying to do it from the, hey, let's all work together standpoint versus, requiring major investments from them. So that was kind of the conversation I think I originally kind of tasked was, are there programs out there that we can piggyback off of? We don't have to go write our own, but, what can we borrow from somebody else and put our
Yeah.
name to it?
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that we've assumed incentivizing would be best for us. And the first thing that we wanted to do, and Jill made contact, but I don't think they've ever gotten back to
I keep emailing and it's like,
So we wanted
No
we
reply.
wanted a lead representative, if such exists, say a Florida rep or something like that. I think they're based in Minneapolis or Chicago or something like that, but to come down here and just say, kind of give us a presentation about how do most cities and counties go about
implement.
changing their code with incentives for people to make, to seek these standards and so forth. And and then
To create
one
culture.
somewhere Michelle, not Michelle, but Jill came across something, and I drilled down into it, and it showed like 39 or 40 cities in Florida with a
Oh, that
link.
are.
Pardon?
Yeah, that are.
Yeah, that have incentives and exactly what their incentive is. It's
okay.
right out of their code. So I remember one was Delray Beach, and they say, if you do this, boom, you get something good, whatever that was, I can't remember. Usually it's saving some
Okay.
kind of money or getting your approval really
Sure.
fast or something like that. yeah.
Okay.
And Michelle, it's usgreenbuildcouncil.org, usgbc.org is what I looked into, and I had some great communication for a few months, trying to figure out what date, and then the last 2 months, it's just been, they haven't replied.
I would be interested in volunteering with that if you want to do it together. It's
Sure.
huge. Lead
It-
is a
It's huge.
massive category, and there's,
Yeah.
even just when we attempted to look into it when we built our house, and the architect says, well, what level?
Right.
Of lead? And I said,
Right.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
And so we couldn't
Yeah.
even grasp the concept for our
Right.
residential application because it was just so entailed.
Agreed.
There is a building in Lake Worth that Hedrick Construction built. It's the Eco Center. It was built in 2008. It's a very interesting commercial office space, and it's still there. So it might be worth something to go have a look at.
Yeah.
How they used gray water, air conditioning, condensation for irrigation for their
Yeah.
garden that they have upstairs on the roof. is
And maybe what
interesting.
incentives, I mean, I think we all keep going back to,
Yeah.
you gotta incentivize
Right.
these builders
And create a culture for
residents
it.
to do it.
Yeah, but we have to
What we
provide
can
them with
offer.
guidelines to do it because it's overwhelming.
So you volunteered to get involved with LEAD, right? Or
Whatever
some
that
incentives
got, yeah.
to do
Uh,
environmentally sensitive construction or
can work with-
renovation. Some of them are very simple. Their code, it's like a 2-sentence thing in their code that says, and I'll send you that, which I got from Jill, and it shows you a map, and you can click on the little button where it says 1, 5, 6, whatever, and it'll show you the name of the government and what they did and
Okay.
where it says. But some of it is very simple, like there's like 5 levels of LEED, like I'm gonna fake it, platinum is like the highest you can get. There's a gold and so forth, but then there's that first level is obviously better than doing nothing.
Right.
But it's not, as comprehensive as, you know, the things that are up on the big platinum list. But I'll send that to you, and then you can drill down to see what they, and it shows you all across the country
What they do.
what they're doing.
Are you familiar with Babcock Ranch out on the west coast?
Yeah.
That's amazing, but obviously a different scale than what we have, and that's brand new. But there's concepts to learn from, things like that. Okay, so I will volunteer for that category.
Michelle, what was the name of the building in Lake Worth?
Eco Center.
Thank you.
Maybe even Dale Hedrick might be a person to connect with to find out how that was built and if it was incentivized as well.
So you know Dale?
Mhm.
Yeah, I do too. You know, Patrick Painter is the on the council here,
Mhm.
and he's the
He's
legal
with Hedrick.
counsel for Hedrick Brothers,
There we go.
and he lives in your neighborhood.
Yes, he does, yeah.
What am I writing? Oh, yeah, you're volunteering for lead. Okay.
Yeah, on the volunteering train, I mean, I guess I've kind of taken the recycling ride, so I'm happy to spearhead that as well and try and figure out the increased use of systems here, what local places we can partner with. I'll try and put together a list from everything for, you know, batteries, paint cans. I'll try and see what I can come up with that, so.
Excellent. All right, thank you. And by the way, just as a side note, if you contact, the man's name is Jeff Saban.
Okay.
He's the head of, I don't know what you
Solid
call,
waste.
he's like public relations for
solid waste.
the WD,
Waste management. okay.
WM, yeah, Waste Management. He's a good guy. He's been around for a long time, and one of the things I'd be interested in as a footnote to all this, I think mostly today they're using diesel in these big trucks that go around town and pick up stuff, but I think they can go to natural gas, and which has still has emissions, but it's lower than diesel fuel. And then there's other vehicles, like you see hybrid buses all across the United States now. So that would mean that a vehicle the size of a garbage truck could probably run on being a hybrid as well. So I'm just wondering if you could, if in the course of that, if you run it,
Find
just
out.
ask him what he's saying,
Yeah.
what's their fleet plans for the future?
Sure.
I have a,
Yes, just a second, Joe. I
Sure.
noticed there's people online there. Does that say Marjorie Craig? And
Yes, the top.
Lori McWilliams?
Can't read
Okay. All right, so that's fine. Yes, Jill, go ahead.
if Michelle and I are doing the lead together, are we allowed to go visit the Echo Center in Lake Worth with it just
Yeah.
being us two, or do we need a third person? What are the rules on that, if I may?
Glad you asked, because I have no idea.
Like, we need a third person at least? How do we? No, how do,
The third
No,
person even
it's
matter.
actually,
you can't do it.
so you're at, if you're both there, you're both, at
We
the same
can't talk to
time,
each other.
you're, you
We
are.
can
you're-
do this across the room?
I'm trying to explain it.
Yeah,
You're de facto in the eyes of the state of Florida. You're
Okay.
engaging in a meeting that should
Okay.
be public only.
so anything that we want to discuss and lead, even if we're doing it together, has to be only when we're in here. We could do our research on our own and then we have to discuss it while we're in here? Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like, for
I know,
example,
Yeah.
it's such a,
if
Oh,
you
Bob
want,
Shaw and I were neighbors. It was very
Right.
frustrating.
Yeah.
if you want
We
to
did not
divide and
talk to each
conquer,
other.
like you say
That's what
there's
we have
this
to do.
list of things that you want to
Sure.
deal with, and you want to divide it amongst the two
Sure.
of you, you probably need to do it here. You can do it. It seems odd that we would all
it
have
seems
to
odd,
be
like
here.
I'm thinking, wow, wouldn't it be a cute field trip if we all went and saw this
Yeah,
Echo Center
I
in
have
Lake
very s-
Worth, or?
Yeah, I have a very, I'm gonna bring up a very similar situation.
I mean, I think it would be, you know.
But we
Well,
can't.
there are ways around it. For example, if we all wanted to go to the Eco Center at, say, 10 a.m. on September the 10th or whatever,
Okay.
we can announce that we're going there through
Okay.
the village, and that so
Okay.
people could join us if they showed up.
Okay.
That's one way to get around. Now, I guess the other way would be, let's try this on Mary Ann.
Yeah, I know, Mary Ann's who I'm watching.
So-
She's,
You're stressing me out.
she's, I'm watching her like a movie. She's so funny.
Imagine this, that you and Michelle want to get together legally to talk about lead. You could, in theory, you could have a, let's call it a subcommittee meeting of the EAC, or you could just call it an EAC meeting, and the two of you just come in here and they
Come in
put it
here
on a
and
bulletin
discuss.
board somewhere.
Can we do a video when we go to visit it?
Yeah, you
Bring
could do a
that.
video.
Bring that for everybody to see.
So it's
Wow.
problematic, but,
It is, how do you communicate?
I mean,
How do you do
there
that?
is a way for you to.
Slowly.
We could put the both of you on a EAC subcommittee, and then you could meet here and do your thing, but that means Mary Ann and them have to do a notice for the public to know that you're having a meeting.
Too much.
I mean,
So-
we have to create the subcommittee, and are you the only two members of it? And then you have to have a quorum, and then, like, all of this. is
Yeah,
involved.
too much.
I have to
Too much.
consult with Lori, because she's the guru on all this,
Okay.
but anything meeting outside of these meetings is dicey.
Okay.
Now, sometimes there are things that can be labeled administrative that are not, where you're not discussing any decisions that are coming before this board, okay?
And we can't go as an educational opportunity, no.
Well,
Wow.
one
So,
person.
let me give you an example.
Yeah.
One person
Remember
can?
when I,
You can do
remember
it
today,
tomorrow.
remember today when I said we need to amend the minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, I emailed Brad, and I said, Brad, I'm not saying that Mary Ann is wrong, but my notes say that you volunteered to do percolates, and perchlorates, and, he wrote me back and said, Tom, yes, you are correct. Okay, that, we didn't talk about anything, no substantive, it was just trying to figure out what to do. It's administrative, so then I brought it up, the minutes need to be changed. So that's an example of something administrative. Or if I were to call every one of you and say, hey, we got a very important meeting, President Biden's coming to speak to us or something like that. So it's okay for me to say, call you on the phone and say, Jill, will you be able to attend the meeting?
That's okay.
That's okay. I'm not talking about anything, just want to know, are we going to have a quorum to be present? No substantive, just wanting to know. So that's like administrative. But other than that, it gets real iffy,
Yeah.
real iffy.
What about if we're able to engage one of these entities to come here? That's fine, and do a
That's
presentation.
fine, yeah, perfect.
It's
yeah.
not as good as going and actually seeing and touching it, seeing it for real, but.
But if you want to do like a, what do you
Go
call it, a
individually.
field, what do they
Field
call it?
trip.
A field trip. It's doable. You have to announce it,
Open it.
it has to be broadcasted that we're going to be at the Eco Center in Lake Worth at September the 10th at 10 a.m. or whatever it is.
If you'd like to
And
meet
the
us
public
there,
is
you can.
invited,
Mm.
and we all go.
Yeah.
Or they have to go independently.
Yeah,
Well,
they
they
go.
would meet us there, right?
Yeah, they
I
would
mean,
go
there's no
independently and meet us there.
That's right.
Because they used to do tours of that building.
I know, I was thinking that
And
would
that,
be,
if they
That's
still
what-
do
and
that,
that-
that would be great.
That's kind of what I was going to say, that Loggerhead had reached out and I had suggested, I was like, oh, well, we could, and then the woman that had reached out from the board had been on the commission for however long, and she said, I'm not sure, you might want to check, and I remembered that we as a board would have to
Yeah.
either all be there with the public, which was not an option for this particular tour, or then I would have to go alone and then report back, because, yes, so, I know, which is, that's
It's
like,
so-
but,
Yeah.
it's something that I think,
Yeah.
anyway, I'll ask about that after, I guess.
So perhaps, I've seen it in 2008, perhaps you go see it.
Yeah, and then
And I'll
report back.
call and get information from them?
Yeah.
Is that allowed?
Well, do you believe it's something we should all see?
I personally, when I saw it in 2008, which is when it was built, it was so fascinating, the concepts that they used. It's not necessarily the most beautiful building you've ever seen in terms of, architecture and such like that. And it is the concepts of this, using the gray water and utilizing the condensation from the AC systems to create irrigation for their garden that they had up on the top floor. And the AC system doesn't come from the top down, it comes from the bottom up because hot air rises. So it's, the concepts
Yeah.
are very interesting.
I
And-
like,
It
I
would be
would like
good.
to see it.
Yeah, it would be good to see now that it's been in use for this many
Right,
years.
right.
Like, what's worked, what have you changed, what have
Right.
you learned?
And
So
as
I think that
far
would be
as
a-
the interior, different office spaces, the way it was built, if I can remember correctly, the platforming was such that they could change inner spaces to accommodate new tenants as they come and go. And there was one area that was the kitchen area for all of the tenants to utilize, which also created community, which was a neat concept. And in the center of it, there was this aquatic feature with a pond, and everything was, the water was from gray water and condensation, and the fish ate, they didn't even feed them food because they ate what was growing in there, and their waste created the fertilizer. There are a lot of
That's
concepts.
amazing.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, do you think they still exist today and have like little tours?
I don't know if they still have the tours, the building still exists, yeah, so I can look into that first.
Can you check that out
Yes.
for us and let
Yeah.
us know?
Yeah.
And then, Mary Ann, can you, so go to Laurie and say, Laurie, they're thinking, the EAC is thinking about a field trip. How can they legally effectuate a legal field trip?
I'll find out right now.
Eco-center.
Yeah. I actually was just curious if it's, because I was going to volunteer to reach out, kind of be the liaison between the businesses, plaza owners, and village to somehow see if we could work on getting recycling. But if that's something that he, wanted to,
Sure, more the better, but sure.
yeah, I think, because isn't that the issue, is that it's the plaza owners that are responsible for the space, it's the
We've heard-
figuring out how to make it all work.
Yeah, we've heard over the years
Right.
that, like, there'll be a business in a plaza that
Wants
very
to.
much wants to recycle, but the owner of the plaza
Right.
doesn't want to provide
Accommodate.
the facility
The cost.
because of the cost.
Yeah.
Right, so if there's a way of coordinating somehow between multiple, I don't know, again, that was the angle that I was gonna take, but since you're taking other things, I
Sure,
think
no, we
that
can
would be.
spitball that and,
Yeah.
see what we can come up with.
Well, Jessica, if you think, and Clay, you jump in if you think it's appropriate. If you were willing to reach out to property owners, business property owners, would you do that and ask them questions like, do you have any plans for solar power or anything to reduce energy consumption? Or
That was not the angle, I was just gonna focus
You
on
just want to be on
recycling.
the, okay. Okay.
I was just gonna focus on working on facilitating the recycling, and then we
Okay.
could go from there with other things if they wanted to, but for me, I know that again, if there are businesses that have wanted it, as we've heard over the years, and plaza owners, I'm just curious, of course, being on the committee that wants to help facilitate recycling, which, by the way, my cousins, my family reunion in North Carolina, there were 140 people this year. We go every year for the past however many. The entire county doesn't recycle, which, they still have to drive there. They have the option to, if they want to drive it with the trash separately down to the recycling thing, and I'm like, so there's uphill paddles that are bigger than ours.
So going back to
Yes, but this-
recycling.
yes, we-
So there is, do you think she could help by focusing on business and you focus on
Yeah, absolutely, because
other?
I was even thinking my angle is more residential
Right,
focused. So by all means, yeah,
Well,
'cause
again, I'm happy to let you, this is
No,
just
please.
this was the angle and the only side of it that I, in my head, had remembered being an issue over the years and was thinking I could just try to be the liaison, or communicate and just see how they're doing with it. And if there's anything that I could do to help, or if we could work together to find a solution.
Jeremy, you don't have to get up, but does that Tequesta Business Association still periodically meet here or someplace? No?
No, we haven't met with that group in a while, but we do have contacts for all of them. We have correspondence with all the businesses pretty often.
Is it possible that Jessica could contact them some way with that info about recycling, or is that out of bounds?
No, I mean, let me game plan that one. I mean, it's all should be public record anyways, but I mean, I just don't, I wanna make sure that we're separating it from, you know, from the business liaison standpoint or working in conjunction with the business liaison standpoint, so one of the two. So
I'd be happy to,
however we-
yeah.
However we message that.
That'd
So,
be great.
You're catching me cold, but let me game plan that. I think that
Okay.
might be a good initiative, and maybe we can work together in conjunction with EAC and the business thing, let them know it's coming, so.
Well, once you get if you can come up with a game plan, would you just contact Jessica to let her know?
And that would be a great, like, you know, initiative for the, you know, I think that would be a great thing to do.
Thank you, that's great.
Yeah.
All right, so what have we not covered on that list?
Tom, I'm not sure,
Well-
I heard something about searching for grants.
Yes.
I don't know what column it was under. I would be
Wastewater?
interested in doing that. I used to
Okay,
do that.
that's great, because
That's a great.
as you probably know, that's
that's a big one.
a big task.
Yeah.
So we have so when it comes to the village, the local government thing, and Jeremy can chime in if he wants to, but I've always assumed that in order for them to do like a solar array or to do anything with wind, for example, or to get charging stations strategically placed in town, even if it's just one public one, to get that infrastructure, whatever it may be, is more probable if there's a grant where either, you know, a large chunk of it is paid by the grantor to save them money in order to make it happen. So, for example, I'm faking it. If there is a grant out there that will say cover 75% of one or more electric charging stations on a governmental property to facilitate public and/or staff use of electric vehicles, they would probably be interested in something like that, because if it was a $50,000 thing, they would only have to put $12,500 to make it happen. So that's kind, and you know, there's all the things that Russ showed us not too long ago about these new wind alternatives that are being installed on buildings now, that are super efficient, and they don't kill birds while they're doing things like that. But wind is, you know, the opportunity for wind for the government is low, okay? But it's still, they've got a lot of land over there at the water plant. So that's what I was thinking. There's not likely, there are some grants, currently, for example, depending on your income, the federal government will pay a large portion of you or me or whoever's eligible to put in solar power on their house, on their roof, and or ground-based. I saw that the other day. And so not many people in the public know about that. So that's an avenue. It's not necessarily to say, hey, here's something we should apply for, but rather to communicate to the community that that's an option.
Yeah.
So you want to go down that
Yeah,
path?
I'll go down that path.
Well, that's a big one. You just solved most of our problems. Let's see,
I don't know what column that was on, but I know I heard it it was toward the end.
when you,
Isn't it under
I don't think it's technically under
stationary
the equity, but
energies?
Well,
It could be a couple different columns, right?
yeah, the local government column for sure, not the second item from ICLEI was increase the use of renewable energy for the local government. So, if there's grants that can do that, and the village thinks it's meritorious, they might do it. And I think that, you know, tell me if I'm wrong, everybody, but how about somebody volunteer to talk to Marjorie about things she has done, planning to do, and things in the 5 years out or so?
Yes,
Marjorie?
I bet she'd just tell us right now.
She's probably, she's not, who knows? Tell me if you guys see, okay, we've got lead covered, we've got grants covered for, and for example, if local government has reducing employee commute vehicle miles traveled, well, if they had a power electric charging station and they bought a Tesla, they could come and charge it while they're at work. I mean, so, most people would charge at home, not at work, but sometimes it comes in handy.
Jeremy, your employees driving Teslas?
I knew of one employee, he's no longer with us, he moved on to a bigger, larger position, larger organization. He was driving an electric vehicle and wanted us desperately to put one in, but I don't know if anybody driving a Tesla. It was like some other hybrid or other electric vehicle.
Yes, they're hybrid. Some hybrids are charged and others are pure.
I could volunteer to ask Margie, but I'll probably wait till next month when she's here.
Okay,
Just ask her when she's here.
all right. I don't see, does anybody
Or
see?
I'll send her an email to give her a heads up that we were
Okay.
gonna ask her in person.
Does anybody see anything else in here that we gotta cover?
I think that's a lot to cover.
That is a lot.
Well,
Kind of digest that.
Yeah.
Let's start there.
we got recycling covered, we got the Loxahatchee River District covered, we got Marjorie covered. And so basically, it comes down to identifying options for the public and the government to reduce energy consumption and to take steps to get reductions in greenhouse gases. And that, and if Brad's gonna dive into the grants, I think a lot of that is gonna be covered by the grants that he says, hey, this might be valid. Am I seeing it wrong, or somebody see something
I
we've
think-
left out? Well, if we left it out, we'll realize it later. How about that?
That's fair.
We'll
But no, I
we'll
think
have
it
an
looks good.
This is a lot.
aha moment later.
This
Jill,
might be all we can handle.
you're doing buildings?
Yeah, I mean,
Ha-
should I focus more on the commercial, or, I mean, I think putting commercial and residential together is huge.
That's huge. Yeah.
So, I don't know, are we more concerned with commercial?
The building inventory in the totality of Tequesta is overwhelmingly residential.
Yeah, so residential. What residential, what people can do?
Yeah.
The
Okay.
simple stuff.
Yeah.
One of the things, though, to think about is, so, you know, we have a nice number of condominiums.
Yeah,
And let's say you buy an older unit and you want to gut it.
which is
Okay.
happening a lot.
Yeah, true. So is there anything that type of homeowner can do to reduce their emissions?
Recycled products and
Yeah.
things of that nature, sure, sure.
That might be another
Okay.
avenue, you know, because there's new construction of single-family homes, there's major renovation of single-family homes,
Mhm.
and then you've got this smaller number of condominiums that, you know, maybe they'd like to know what they could do and what what we might be able to do as a government to help them down that path.
So I'm gonna email Jill something, but I'm just gonna say it now so I'm not like breaking any laws. But I came across a couple articles that were related to this, that kind of like the wind thing that I saw. So apparently a couple of years ago, Purdue University developed this paint. It's like it's like an ultra white paint. Right, and so the theory is that you use this ultra white paint and it either reduces or potentially eliminates your need for air conditioning.
Wow.
I don't know if it's being made yet. It's just literally 2 years ago they made this, figured it out. So I don't know, but that's something that I wanted just to send you a couple of those articles.
That'd be
maybe
great.
you want to look into.
Sure.
Because that would be something super easy. It's like, hey, I
Right.
got to repaint my house anyway,
There you go.
and I don't want to, pay for this new AC or whatever.
So if
Yeah.
we have information to share with Jill, because I have some too, so
Yeah.
do we
You
email it to
include
the whole
everyone.
group, right?
Yeah.
You can, or you can limit it so long as have you noticed that from time to time, if I email something, I should say at the bottom,
Do not.
please do not respond in order to avoid
Okay.
violation of Florida Sunshine Law.
Okay,
If you put that on every email you write,
okay.
and the person follows your request,
Mhm.
you won't violate the Florida Sunshine Law.
Okay.
I
So-
just have included all of you.
What?
I just include all of you
Yeah,
when I email.
it's okay.
Because there's a lot
I
of
just-
Babcock Branch, that fascinating stuff I've learned from them.
I pulled up, yeah, that's
Yeah.
great.
What Russ
Yeah.
just mentioned about the ultra-white paint,
Yeah.
it's mind-boggling.
That's
It
crazy.
literally reflects like something like 90% of the sun's energy that hits a
Right.
home,
Can
so
you walk
much
down
so
the
that.
street?
Huh?
Can you walk down the
Is it
street
like
with all these
glowing?
white
I mean, yeah, that you'd want to look into that. And the other concern that I saw was potentially when it reflects the light, it might get caught in some of the particles in the air and then actually increase temperatures in the area. I'm not sure if that was just somebody, like, because I saw
Theory.
some were saying it bounces it back to space, and some were saying it could get caught in the particles. But who's writing those articles? So that's something to look into.
And what amazed me about it was that how ignorant I was relative to the impact of the sun hitting, say, the walls of your home. I mean, it's just, it's like he said, in some places where they've done it and tested it, they didn't need air conditioning at all.
Wow.
Wow. It's amazing. Okay, so is there anything else that we need to talk about on this subject for now? Okay. All right, so let's move on to I think we only have those 3 items under the communications thing. Let's see. Go back. Where is the agenda? Here we go. All right, so the next thing under new business is comments of committee members, village council liaison, which we don't have anymore, I don't think, and staff. So let's start with, Russ wanted to give us an update on the shoreline issue that he volunteered for.
Okay, so I spoke with Lynn Britt. As we all know, she made that presentation on behalf of and with the Jupiter Inlet District to push for more natural living shorelines, right? And so she had some minor updates and some clarifications and stuff, because I was asking her, because I didn't attend that meeting. She said that she's pretty sure that Molly, the mayor, took a boat ride with the Jupiter Inlet District to learn more about the situation, so that's positive, sounds good, that she's interested enough to learn more about it. So it definitely sounds like the council is paying attention to this, which is good. She said the first step was mapping our shorelines to see what we have, as far as not just like where we have shorelines, but what is currently there. Are there mangroves, and where are the mangroves? are there seawalls, where are the seawalls, that kind of thing. And she has been in contact with, I believe, a fellow named Travis from Jacksonville, I think. That was me trying to remember that later on. But anyway, she's been in contact with someone about mapping, and that's ongoing, figuring out how they're going to get that mapping done. But she said that's first step. So there's not much we can do until we find out what we have there. And then I asked her if there was any way we could support this endeavor. And she suggested gathering info on the subject and having her in eventually, maybe after the mapping, for a meeting with us to exchange info with each other on the subject. And then, so since then, I've done some gathering of sources, some news articles, some academic articles on the topic to just have a bank of information for when it's time to disperse the information.
Jeremy, you had
I
something?
just want to add a little bit to that. So, yes, we got a, I guess, a proposal to do that shoreline, but what, we went kind
For
of
the
back to the
mapping?
drawing board. We took the Jupiter Inlet District, they had a map of that. We kind of imposed of what that is to Cuesta, so we were able to come up with percentages of what's bulkhead, what's rock, what's natural. So I think we have a pretty good handle on it. We do have Jupiter's ordinance that I think is, pretty detailed. What I've, I guess where I feel like we're at with that is, we are gonna have a new director of planning and building that is starting in September, and so tasking them with bringing that ordinance forward and taking a look and letting them take a full run at it, and obviously work with you guys to make that happen too. So, so I don't know that we need that full analysis. I feel like, in my opinion, obviously defer to that planner or to that director. In my opinion, I don't know that we need to spend thousands of dollars on a study that we already kind of have the information that we need. But I'm gonna let somebody else smarter than me make that recommendation, so hope that helps.
Sounds good.
So Jeremy, you don't have to get up. My recollection is Lynn made a presentation to the council, probably at a workshop meeting. And they didn't take any action, but said for there to be further staff review and/or their review of, I guess, Jupiter Inlet District as well as the Jupiter ordinance. And so that's kind of where we are now, and at some point it's probably going to come back to another workshop meeting. Is that what you think?
Well, first, I think we'll, that director will take a look at that, because it was kind of, that ordinance is pretty in-depth. Let them take a look at it, put together an analysis, maybe then bring it back to you guys. That way, when we do take it back to a council, we have some kind of recommendation from you guys to provide that to council, and then they can take action of where they want to go with it. But that way, you guys have a chance to provide a recommendation, yay or nay. And I know you guys have already looked at that and are very supportive of, at least in general, of what that looks like.
Yeah. That sound good to everybody? That they'll actually, after the director of planning gets a hold of it, they'll take it to us first and we can recommend it, and then he's got that in his hip pocket when he goes to the village council.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime there's more than just us supporting something, I feel it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, thanks, Jeremy. Anything else on that, Russ?
Nope.
Any questions for Russ, anybody? No? All right, we move on to Clay and his recycling update.
Yeah, the loose update is we don't have recycling. So I visited Tequesta Park, Constitution Park, Coral Cove, our rec center, and the answer is there are trash facilities, there are zero recycling. We have nothing.
Did you say we don't have trash either?
Oh, no, they
We
have
do have
trash
that, okay.
facilities, and there's a good amount of, pretty much, it seems like everybody utilizes the barrel, the swiveling barrel. We don't have it. There is no recycling at any of those locations. So it's pretty much put your trash, put your recycling, put everything together in the barrel. To me, it seems as though that's some easy low-hanging fruit that we need to be get a recycling bin at these locations.
Sure,
Let me
yeah.
interject, because, and I don't mean to tell you wrong, but we do recycle at Sequesta Park. We have a high school kid that goes out there once a week, moves the trash bins. I sign off on his community service stuff. So we do have recycling out there. We have recycling bins that he moves
At
weekly. So
Sequesta
I don't want
Park.
to take his credit away, because he gets credit every week at school for that, you know, I sign off on that. So
I think he
But
meant,
that-
let me make sure we got this now. You're saying that there may be just one receptacle, but
No,
that
there's-
high school
there's-
kid separates it.
no, there's recycling bins out there. He takes them from their locations, moves them over. Waste Management comes. I'm contacted Waste Management, so they would come pick those recycling bins up specifically, and then they take them away. He comes back out there, moves the recycling bins back in place, and that's done on a weekly basis. So, now I can't pertain to what it looked like when you went out there.
Yeah, I
So,
mean,
if
not-
there's a
yeah.
process we're missing out there, then, but I do know we do have some recycling. I'm not trying to be argumentative. I just
of
wanted to-
course.
Just wanted, that kid does a fine job, and I wanna make sure he had credit for doing that.
My level of recon work was go there. I walked for about 60 seconds. If I could see something, I said great. If not, I said okay. You know.
So maybe
Well,
location
no,
is
no,
better.
but this is, I mean, recycling has been an issue, so I'm glad somebody else has gone and checked it out, because Jeremy and I have been emailing about this, and I know
Sure.
that they have gotten new bins, so I've kind of been the mom at the rec center, like, ugh, I don't see the recycling, I know we've gotten them, but they're not being used, they're hidden, they're somewhere, so I know both sides, because I know that we're saying we're recycling, it's just very hard to find, as you have just pointed out.
Yeah,
So
and
it's
I can
visible.
quite
should-
confidently say
yeah,
Coral
I-
Cove has 0. I mean, I went all over Coral Cove.
Well,
I
we're
saw
not
the
claiming to
buckets,
have
I
them there,
saw,
right?
you
You're
know,
not saying there's
everything,
recycling, he's not,
benches.
yeah, there definitely is not recycling it.
Yeah, so
further.
perhaps I missed the Tequesta Park one, but Coral Cove, absolutely, there's nothing. Constitution Park, I went around the entire
Yeah, there's-
lap around the whole thing, they got 5 drums, but there is none. I went on Riverside Drive, I didn't get all of River, but even just our cut-ins, at the cut-ins to go to the water.
Those are Jupiter.
You know,
Yeah, those are Jupiter.
yeah, but wherever it switches
But you're
over,
right, they
but
don't
you
have-
know, so I didn't get all of the water cut-ins that where people like to go, but my report so far was that we really don't have any.
Or not visible.
Is it something that's easy enough of calling Solid Waste Authority or Waste Management and having them bring out the bins that we need? Jeremy, is that as easy as that, of saying, listen, we need these for our community?
Let's take Constitution Park as an example of what I want to say. So there's a building centrally located that's the restrooms.
Yep.
Okay, and it has like an overhang and a
Yep, a little-
concrete
Right.
pad and all of that. So it wouldn't be unusual if there was a recycling unit along one of those walls that could be easily seen, that would be, it could be trash,
Glass and
glass,
plastic, and
aluminum,
then- yeah,
paper, stuff
right,
like
yeah.
that. And, it could be a 3 to 5 bin array that's one unit.
Yeah.
And so periodically, a worker comes and empties it,
Yes,
makes sure it stays in its right segregated
Right.
manner.
Yeah, or even one of the other things I noticed is a lot of them are, well, several are like dual drums. I don't know, paint one of them blue and yellow. So we don't even need to go to the extent of really retrofitting, but several were dual. You had just 2 drums. Maybe we convert one drum to recycling. I'll toss around some more ideas on what the path of least resistance is on that, but it definitely seems like an opportunity to.
well, especially the plastic and glass, when people are drinking
Yeah, I mean, the
water.
Coral Cove one, I was really surprised. I mean, like, that's what people are doing. They're out there drinking, whether it's soft drinks, beers, whatever it is, but they're definitely going to be an abundance of cans, plastics, and they're all just going into one bin.
Well, we might be able to put pressure on the county to do something in regard to recycling facility at the Coral Cove. So, seems like Constitution Park is the big one, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's
Do I
kind
mean
of.
to Quest
That-
And that's
Park.
also where, like I've been saying, there's an educational opportunity, and that's why I keep showing the pictures they have over at the Jupiter Community Center, and they've got signage, and it was through the support of that organization. I forget what I had said, but it's in the bottom of the picture on that little thing.
Yeah.
So, you know, there are groups that will help provide the funding for this kind of recycling, but Constitution, there's, as a mom of 3, you know, I mean, that's teaching these things, it's nice seeing and being out and about and having visuals to help reinforce concepts, you know. So to me, I of course think there's a learning opportunity that we're missing out on. But that's also where we could be, you know, putting some of the more, I don't know, not creative, but remember Jupiter had like cosmetics disposals, like toothbrush, they had kind of different things, you know, somewhere like that, if there was space, you know, during the week or whatever, you could use.
Well, Clay, one thing I would recommend is you make an appointment to go see Greg Corbett. Greg is the head of he's the recreation director. And
Okay.
he you know, he could give you his thoughts on what could be done and so forth at Constitution Park and inside the rec center too.
Yeah.
The
I walked in the rec center, they have literally one, I think it's probably that exact
Right.
one over there, and it's like honestly hidden behind like bushes like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
It's
hard.
like, you know.
that's more for like an office setting
Correct,
kind of thing.
and that's fine, but certainly,
Not for public, it's
Yeah.
not, it's hard to see, it doesn't jump out at you, it's pretty, it is not
correct.
a,
There's
here's
definitely,
recycling,
there's
here's
definitely an
recycling.
opportunity within the park itself to have a much more substantial type station, if not 2, you know.
There might be inside the rec center itself an opportunity as well.
Sure.
Um,
You know, I did my lap through there, spoke with the front desk. They kind of gave me the majority of people here are bringing, you know, their own Yetis, you know, their own reuse type stuff.
At the rec center?
Yeah.
You should talk to the the woman that teaches the kids' classes.
Oh, sure.
She has her bag that she brings home with her every day for recycling because.
Yeah, there's definitely
And if any of the
opportunities.
moms have recycling, like she collects it,
Yeah.
she takes it home. Because
I-
it's either full, you know, it's just easier at that point.
I think we had this conversation before, and so I'll bring it up again to make sure my mind is properly functioning. So I'm of the opinion that a reasonable degree of segregation of the materials should occur because you have to think about the worker who is assigned the task of separating the different items if you don't have a higher degree of segregation of glass, aluminum, et cetera, et cetera.
And
I instinctually agree with you, but I was shocked. I know Jupiter, it's all one bin now. Like,
Well, and- yeah.
they literally paid for it and you were required. They said, get rid of your yellow and blues. We're sending you one new one, and it's like blue with a yellow top, and put it all in there. So that implies that the separation aspect,
Well, they're separating it at the facility.
yeah.
They have to.
But I would assume ours is
Yeah.
going to the same place.
So we're in line to end up getting collection
Interesting.
mechanized, just like Jupiter's going through right now, aren't we?
Yeah, we're gonna have that conversation soon with waste management.
Yeah, we're going to the big bins, the big giant bins that are picked up by a machine.
Right.
Boom, boom, boom.
Yep.
And so you're gonna have one, I guess it's gonna be what, 3? Or is it 2? One is going to be garbage and the other is
Correct,
going to
2.
be recycling?
Yes.
Not 3, right?
I think it's just
And where do you put your yard waste too? Don't they want that manually, machine collected too?
Well, I mean, with our yard waste in Martin County, I mean, we just make a pile and they come pick it up with a claw as
We do-
opposed
that's
to
what we
the-
do too.
Yeah.
So it's not the bucket, or not the trash receptacle.
I mean, you can't fit it in a receptacle.
I
Yeah,
will
but-
say that some yard waste in your regular trash can, they won't pick it up.
They will not, absolutely
I had
not.
about that much in a
Yes.
can, you know, like that
Yeah.
My
big,
dad's done that too, yeah.
along with a bunch of other garbage. It was just a few little dead,
Yeah, they won't.
you know,
I
things.
don't understand what.
And they would not take it.
You realize they burn it all, right? It's at one time.
It's gotta be in the in the separate landscaping pile though.
The reason I know this is former Mayor Liz Shower's husband oversaw the entire project from the waste to energy project at the solid waste facility. And at the time of its opening and use, it was the largest waste to energy facility in the world. Okay, so they're burning this stuff and they make electricity with it. And so why would they care if you've got dead leaves and things? It's gonna be burned to ash.
Who knows?
Oh, okay,
Good
so
question.
I guess that's the good point that Clay makes. If we are all gonna end up putting everything in one recycling bin.
Yeah, I think we don't need to focus
I
so
don't think
much
we need to-
on
yeah, okay.
having separates.
So at a minimum, there should be something for trash and something for recycling.
Yeah,
And I think something for recycling, like when it just all goes into one, you're gonna get more people to do it, because they don't even look
Right,
at
it's
the
simple. It's
labels
put it in that
anyway.
one.
They just
Yeah.
don't.
I can attest to that. If I go to, whenever I go to Whole Foods, I end up eating something while I'm there. And then you go over to the wall there where all,
Six different,
there's
yeah.
trash, glass, aluminum, clean, dirty. I just, what do you do?
Right, just give me, keep it simple.
Yeah, just keep it simple. Okay.
I do know that, you know, my conversation with Jeff Saban, over time, in the next couple of years, it'll be a one source where you put everything in one, and
Yeah.
they separate it at the facility and
Yes.
do it that way. So, I mean, we can talk about today of having two different two different cans, but at the end of the day, at some point, they're gonna get to, it's all in one can, they separate later. So, they said that they are ready for it, but SWA is not quite yet, so.
and you're saying one can of trash regardless?
Right.
Trash,
They
recycling,
pick it up,
plastics,
throw it in there,
papers,
and they
all
separate
one.
somehow, you know, I don't know
Wow.
all that, but
So you no longer put recycling separate from trash even?
That's
today
what
we
he's-
do, but at some point,
I'd
there's gonna
assumed,
be,
yeah. Huh.
But I'm surprised if that's in the pipeline, like why did Jupiter just so recently
Buy
make
those
that
new
large
garbage.
push for,
Well, SWA Waste Management required it because their workers' compensation rates are going through the roof because people are literally wearing the workers out, picking up that stuff by hand.
Oh, yeah.
gotcha.
That's just one of the variables. The other is that they can get the routes done faster by doing it mechanized than they do with the worker. It's
As long as
interesting.
there's recycling.
But yeah, so I'll look even more into that and try and get a little more formal information. How
Okay.
many drums are here, maybe we can, like I said, when I looked at a couple, I thought my instant path of least resistance was these double stations that they have. We just need to be swapping one of them for straight recycling. That seemed,
And then visibility. I mean,
Yeah.
if you have it,
yeah,
people have to be able to know or see where it is.
correct.
To
And if
use.
you're already walking towards throwing your trash out, it's very easy in that split-second moment just to go, okay, these ones go here, and this is pure trash.
Jeremy, do you want to say something?
I was just gonna, if Clayfield, maybe I'll have Deborah reach out to you and we can set up a time so we'll get Jeff Saban either in the office and we can all sit down and talk together if you wanna do it by phone or whatever. That way we can at least, you can ask some questions and maybe it'll help formulate where you wanna
A
go.
plan, sure, yeah.
Okay. Anything else, any questions for Clay or any comments? All right, so my item was this, I think I emailed you all, but I want to bring it up here. Jeremy wrote me this week and said, okay, what are we, we're getting down to brass tacks here about this Bureau of Land Management National Public Lands Day on Saturday, September 23. Remember, everybody, I'm going to be at a football game, so I won't be here. But Their next planning meeting was on August 30th at the Jupiter Lighthouse Outstanding Natural Area
Which I can
Meeting
attend.
House.
Yeah, I can attend that.
3 o'clock. And then, I don't remember who specifically, but some of you mentioned that you would be happy to help Jessica and volunteer for that particular day to help.
Mhm.
And so if you are willing to do that, I think you ought to tell Jessica now so she can know who to lean on.
Thank you.
Yeah, on that day.
And then, just a reminder, this year's theme from the BLM is 30 years of care and community. And they would like someone to be at that meeting. If we can't be at the meeting, they gave a phone number where
I
we
can be
could
there,
call
though.
in, and they had a list of
Yeah, I'll be
questions
there.
that they needed answered. Okay.
Now,
So who all is
can two
willing
of
to
us
help
go to that meeting?
Jessica
Is that legal?
on September 23rd? It's a Saturday. So Michelle,
Yeah, sure, I'm happy to help.
Clay. Okay, so you got 2 people. And Jeremy's email to me said something like, you had a tablecloth, you
Well,
had
that's-
300 plants to give away to the public.
Okay, and that was gonna be another question that I had when I had a chance to speak, but I'll tie it in now, because for this event and even for like food trucks or any of the other, I think that I'd heard we were getting new email addresses. Is that what was holding up the business cards? Okay, so I was curious about whether or not we would have that ready prior to the event, the cards and that sort of a thing. Whether, right now I have like a sign similar to what's on that table, like I just printed out I made an EAC sign and used the logo and printed it out and stuck it in something. I don't know if there's anything that you guys want us, for something this public, if there's any sort of marketing materials on your end, but we're,
Sure.
Well, that's
trade
what I had
show
in the email
brochure.
is that, we have, tablecloth, we bought some giveaways with some plants, but I think in the email I said if there's any other, obviously you guys or whoever's gonna be
Well,
out
it's-
there,
yeah,
what do you
just-
guys wanna give away on an annual basis? If you wanna put together a brochure, we will print whatever we need and we'll try to get it out there before September 23rd.
Yeah.
So that was a sense of urgency that I relayed to Tom in the email, is like, if there is something you guys want, let us know, and obviously hopefully it's something we can, print, so if we don't give it out there, we'll give it out food trucks,
well,
whatever.
yeah, no, I just mean more like, I have purchased those like blue, I've been given one tablecloth from you guys. I have one table and one runner that I've used for food trucks. I usually set 3 tables up. So because there's the kids table and then there's like the information table, they have there's a 3-sided thing kind of going on. So, again, I have what you've given me kind of on the front table for the, greeting adult, it's got kind of the information, but I don't use that on the other 2. So, I don't know if you would like for it to be on all 3.
Yeah, we can, if we need some additional tablecloths, now's the time, or maybe put an email to us so we can order them.
Okay,
Whatever.
I'll put together
I
a-
know you were there at those
Yeah,
food
wish
truck
list.
things, if,
Yeah.
I haven't ever heard of any, needs or requests, but if you're there, or even for that event, let me know, we'll get whatever we need to get, as long as it's within.
Well,
reason.
and yeah, there haven't been, just because food trucks, I kind of have purchased and thrown together everything on my own, and then Lori and Marianne, they'd given, I have a blue tablecloth and a runner.
Right.
So it was more the things that have the logo and the name on it that I have, made myself, and I didn't know if you guys wanted to provide
We'll-
those
we'll-
for
we'll
this
provide
event.
it. Just, send us an email, that's what that email was about, is just, let's get it, we got about a little over a month, we need to press the button pretty soon, so.
So would you like for me to say like 3 table plates or nameplate, like saying
Yeah, be
EAC?
as specific as you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, do you want me to design it, like, what do you want me to do, just let you know?
I don't think so, maybe.
3 tables?
Yeah, 3 tables.
And so,
Is there a
well, that's what
VIT
I'm saying, yeah, do we
VIT
use,
banner?
I wasn't sure if there was something you guys use on your tents, setups, anything?
Not,
Not Were you like kind of
Nothing, honey?
VOT, anything?
A banner?
We'll find you guys like,
one of these?
I mean, you guys can probably use one of our, you know, our awnings from like the police department or something. We
There
don't,
you
we
go.
won't buy one of those, but, you know, if you wanna, you know, tablecloths and brochures and whatever, just be very specific and then we'll work it out from there. If
Like
there's a
if we're gonna
question
be out
like
in
that,
the
I don't
sun.
know.
Yeah,
then
I'm
we'll-
just representing the
Yeah.
village. Usually I'm at the food trucks, you know, so I'm in the village, like as one of the committees. So this is us kind of out in the public, and
Sure.
I just didn't know how you guys wanted me to present
Yep,
ourselves.
we can do-
And if I can add, we did order the favors, which are the little plants, and it has our logo, the
Yeah.
request a feather on it. Jeremy gave us the go-ahead, we ordered 300 of those, so we'll have that with
That's
the
fun,
logo
yeah.
on it. But whatever else you need, just let me know, be specific, and we will go ahead and order it, as long as Jeremy says it's okay.
Okay.
Present us as an environmentally sensitive community. One thing I think might be important, now, don't take it wrong, if Jessica goes to that meeting on August 30th, it might be wise to have another of your two volunteers go as well. You don't sit together, you're not gonna be making any decisions,
Am I
but,
allowed to go?
pardon?
She said,
I'm
"Am I
just
allowed to
asking, am I allowed
go?"
to go with you?
Well, so, the reason I'm saying it, imagine if Jessica got sick and couldn't go, then you or Clay or whoever would know, okay, this is how it's gonna go down that day, that morning. All of the logistics, they're gonna go over all of that at the meeting. And so, you know, you never know.
Yeah.
Might be wise to have two heads in case one of you cannot end up being there.
Yeah,
And by the
I'll
way,
have to
you
go
will
as well.
realize when you go, Jessica and or Michelle or whoever, this is a very big deal. There's gonna be the television stations and everything. There's gonna be a lot of people there on that day. It's gonna
So
be a
we
big
need
deal.
good
Right.
stuff. We need good merch for stuff like, so,
Weird Indian.
is it outdoors?
Yes.
So we need some kind of shade?
Yeah,
Well,
you
I
need-
have a tent, and that was another, I was going to just ask the committee because we've had a wind incident this summer where I'm having to repurchase a new tent.
Really?
And so my old tent was green, and I know the village, I believe, uses the blue tent, the royal blue. And so I didn't know if we should just go along with getting a royal blue tent, you know. I was thinking.
If that's what you want, yeah.
Or I have a white one for you.
We should just
So,
get a hot pink.
okay.
Quick question, what time is that event on the 23rd?
I think it starts, I'm going from memory, so don't hold me. I think that they are all of their BLM people are gonna arrive at 7:30 a.m. I think they want the Jessicas and the Michelles and the Clays of the world to show up at 8 a.m. And then the public will be allowed to start coming in at 9 a.m. But if you go to that planning meeting on the 30th, you will definitely know with certainty exactly how it's gonna go down. Okay, any other comments or questions? Now, think about this before we
Oh.
leave. What would you like to have on, I'll come back, what would you like to have on the agenda for the next meeting? Jessica, you raised your hand.
I did, just because I did want to bring up that, and was curious if the village was aware that the House Bill 1191 was signed into law June 29th, which allows for the use of phosphogypsum as a demonstration study in our roadways, which would essentially make them radioactive. Unfortunately, it's a very short study period that they're giving, only until April 24th. So any new roads that might be paved or developed or worked on here, what I'm hoping is that Tequesta would certainly never allow our village to be one of the studies or the locations that this would be used, but I just would like reassurance that we're aware of it and it will not be.
I am aware of it, and we have no intentions, plans, or we won't be doing that. So.
Wonderful, thank you.
Who does the study, DOT or some
The
other?
FDOT is the
FDOT.
one that's, yeah, I mean,
I thought they had to restrict it to sort of more rural areas.
it very well might be. I mean, I'm, you know.
Not that that's good, but.
Yeah, it's not.
Well, no, and if anybody wants to join, there's a 6-mile walk in the Everglades this weekend, specifically because of that being used there.
Does anybody remember me bringing this radioactive phosphate thing up in the past? I was like shocked because I came across it that the phosphate industry
Right.
was trying to get the state to use it. And I even wrote a resolution for us, for the village council to object to it because it's
crazy.
radioactive.
And it passed,
That's unbelievable.
yeah,
Always does.
yeah.
Can you believe that?
No,
Wow.
no, after
They're
however
trying
many
to get
years
rid-
they overturn, it's like, what?
You don't understand what they're doing. They're trying to shift the response, that they are responsible for, let's say, holding in their, the phosphates that are I don't know how to describe it. It's just piling up.
Right, inside those they contain
And so now
them.
they want to have a way to help get rid of it so that their liability is reduced by spreading radioactivity throughout the state of. It's just hilarious. How could anybody even think about doing that?
But it's not, yeah, and they are. That's the scary part, like they are. And it's gonna be out in the rural areas where all of the farming and agriculture and the water. And then
Right
we
back to the
eat it,
water.
it's terrible. It is absolutely terrible. So, anywho, on that lovely note, I'm glad to know that, obviously.
So anybody have any ideas for next month's agenda? The way it stands right now, we finished the comp plan, and if we don't have a regular process for people reporting in their, the work that they've done, then we're not gonna have much for on the agenda.
Okay, well, I think just even based on upcoming events, like having that event next month or things down, we might have to, I need a minute to think.
Do what?
About agenda items, I'm saying, I'm not, can we, I have plenty of things, it's like I just can't think right this second, because, you know, even with Loggerhead, reaching out about the signs, that's something that they never got put up, even though they were okayed, when we got those passed for the. It was okayed, but Loggerhead kind of had a falling apart at the seams a little bit in terms
But I
of,
thought I saw the sign on if you pull into the entrance, it was on your left right there.
but even in like Constitution, I would like them though. I think more, no? Are we just doing them on the beach?
Well,
Because it was also the fire lanterns.
oh, the balloons.
The balloons
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
fire lanterns are what
Right.
I'm talking about. So there is a new person at Loggerhead that has filled the position that is helping with that sort of thing.
Okay.
And one of their board members reached out to me and offered to give a tour because I had reached out regarding one of the agenda items we had a few months ago, I think it was, coming up about sea turtles or that affected them. And so this has been one of the biggest nesting seasons going in history. And so obviously we have a portion of beach that I feel responsible for, Tequesta, you know, I know it's the county you know, but anyway, we're responsible for it here. And
It's in the village, but it's owned by the county.
right, but it's here, and so our residents utilize it, and we can, I think that the more we know about, you know, what's going on there, just in terms of even the dune renourishment, or the sand, or with the nesting, and what's happening, the better.
Do you think the balloon sign should be a Constitution Park?
Well, remember that the lanterns, we didn't want coming down in Jonathan Dickinson.
Yeah, I could see it being in Tequesta Park, but
Any park. To me, it
because
was, I would put them over on that river, any park or place that we have the ability, for me, it's also public awareness. So the more of those signs that are up for people to see, the more they know that's not a good thing to do. You know, there are better ways to commemorate,
As balloons released
Yeah,
inland affect
yes.
what's going on out there.
Yes.
Is that an ordinance, by the way, about balloon
Well,
releases?
we were able to get that passed a few years ago. Tequesta did pass that. So there is no, we don't allow the intentional release of balloons or sky lanterns in any of our parks or beaches.
But people can still.
Or
do
at
it from their
home.
homes.
Or at home,
Oh,
yeah. Well, no, yeah, outside. We don't allow
Right,
the
right.
intentional outdoor release. And so Loggerhead had provided signage that they had shown, for example, in Dania Beach, they have signage that they were willing to give us to put up in our parks. And, but then again, they had started having issues and things have kind of, it's just been, we need to follow up and have them coordinate with Craig or with the village or with however many we're able to put up
So you.
for these
you
metal
have-
signs.
You have contact with that person?
Yes, now, yes. So, and then also I was just going to ask about being able to go do that tour, similar to the Leeds tour.
Well, the answer is it can be done if we let the world know we're going there.
But we have to invite the world also?
Not invite, it's just the
Has
notice
to be
that
open to them.
it has to be open to the
But see,
public.
that I don't think would be, because this is in the Sea Turtle Hospital, like this was
You're
this
still by
was.
yourself.
Right, right. And then I can report back,
Oh, yeah.
of course, to us.
Okay.
But it's basically, what they need from us as a community, or what they're seeing on the beaches, or what, as residents locally, we should be aware of, and what our impacts are, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, yeah, you let us know what you
Okay.
find out, and one of the things, if you do see a sign that you think is apropos for us to place in these is to, like, maybe take a picture of it?
Well, they have them. I can go back in my email. I mean, we've emailed, there is one that they use, there is one.
Okay, so the reason I say that is I would want Jeremy or Greg to make sure they're okay with it, that it's not too big, not too obnoxious.
No,
Not not the content, but
No, and I think they're just the standard metal, like at parkings, like I think they were, just, they're at some of the beaches. But the other thing too, that like the medical waste kind of had brought up, that I think in the past, the Beach Bucket Foundation, we've mentioned having those cylinders for like fishing line disposal at any of, Coral Cove or the beach.
Tequesta Bridge.
Yeah, even on the intercoastal side, I'm somebody that's always over on the beach side, but I will run over if I have to use a trash can on the beach side, if I'm parked on Beach Road. So, if there were my only problem with the ones at the inlet are that the bottom is open too much, which I understand we need to let the water drain, but there are sometimes small pieces of plastic or like small parts of things that will just fall through the bottom, which is my also issue with the metal graded baskets at the beach, which I get, just
so
things
you're
come
saying
through them.
they make a cylindrical.
It's PVC pipe, basically. It's a wide PVC, it's about this big. It's got a sticker because there's some group that'll come collect them. I've got to look again at the inlet. But it's just so you can, with a hole, so people that are fishing specifically can stick fishing line or hooks or any fishing related kind of, mainly for line, into this, and it contains it inside the PVC pipe.
Okay.
That gets emptied out by the bottom, opens, and then somebody collects it.
Do we have a lot of people fishing on the beach into Coral Cove?
Yes, we do off of our bridge, a lot of.
Yeah, oh God, that's where it really
So
needs it.
really
That would
needs
be a
to there.
huge.
When I'm walking, I'm constantly picking up that fishing line and putting it in. We only have one garbage can on.
Oh, well, we don't allow fishing from the bridge here
I
to
know, but
Cuesta.
they do it.
I was thinking
So-
of Cato's though too, but yeah.
But
any
they
of those
do
over
it,
there.
so we've gotta be,
I hear what you're saying. I,
All right, so
listen.
let me so we would like to have something like that at the Tequesta Drive Bridge as well as
Yeah.
Cato's.
I didn't think that that was an option there. I was thinking more of on Beach Road, like if there was a way of having those on Beach Road more.
Well, all we have to do is ask. The county controls that bridge.
Okay, well, that bridge and that stretch, you know, of road, basically where people pull off.
Is there a lot of fishing on the intercoastal side of Coral Cove Park?
I don't know because I'm mainly on the beach side, but there's a lot of fishing on the beach side, you know, and so people are, you know,
Go out there by the garbage cans.
yeah, and that's my point. Like if I'm on the beach, I walk over and I throw things away across the street, even if
But
I'm
most
parked.
people don't do that, Jessica. You gotta think like most people that don't.
I mean, it's literally
But
just
I
across the
know,
street.
but you got-
Really?
Listen, I'll give you a quick story.
I'm not
that-
sure I can hear this.
This was really upsetting.
This is.
We were in Iceland, just got back. We were on the cruise from the Westman Islands back, and this elderly gentleman was standing there. The garbage can was literally from him to where Marjorie's screen is. And I see him reach into his jacket and take out and just do this over to the side, over the side of the
Boat?
ferry.
Oh.
And it was his receipt that went, and then he went into his other pocket, and I was like this, just looking at him like, did I just see that? And before I know it, he puts another receipt, and just lets it go. I'm like, there's a garbage can right there. Like, give it to
Jeez.
me, I'll walk over and put it in. So I'm telling you, we've got to think like most people that it has to be right there. They're not-
Okay, well
most
then
are
there are
not gonna
those,
walk across the
they have
street.
those new, the snow, or the crossing sign poles. Can we just put one right on those
Right.
poles? Whatever,
Yeah.
there you go.
Just make it easy.
Or they have the wooden
Easy,
posts
easy,
on
easy.
both, they have those little wooden fence the county
Sure.
does. You could have one on the fence right
Yes,
there.
it's gotta be easy.
All right, there you go. For you non-walker across streeters.
Right.
Well, okay,
It's a
so,
lot
but
of people.
it still requires
Reaching out to the
their
county.
approval.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so reaching out to the county to ask about having these.
Yes.
Yeah, and that contact would be the Director of Recreation,
Okay.
Palm Beach County. I forgot his name. Yeah, all you're talking about doing is taking a PVC thing and connecting it to a piece of wood.
Yeah.
Okay, trying to think, is there anything else? All right, I'll have to come up with something, for the next agenda. I'm sure something will come up. So, is there a motion to adjourn at, what time is it?
I motion to adjourn.
It's 3:42 PM. Is there a second to the?
Second.
All in favor? Say aye. Motion carries. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Well, I love to work with liaison, but I was literally just looking at the list and remembering what it seemed like the issues were. So I was just thinking. Well, when they told me, I totally don't have any suggestions or communication, but I guess it would be.
All right, adios.
So when something comes in,
Tom,
those.
Yes.
to be clear on what
Get a new one.
I'm doing, so am I researching the commercial applications for,
No, on that